Hi, I'm Dave Wallace, and thanks for joining me on Jack of All Games. This is my very first video, so if you haven't seen my introduction video, I would suggest that you go and check that out just so you kind of see what we're about. This is going to be all over the place. Every week's going to be a little bit something different, but it's all things tabletop games related. So where do we start? I'm going to start with the top 10 list. Seems like a lot of people do their top 10 all-time favorite board games or all-time favorite RPGs. This show is going to be all over the board, so I'm just going to start with my top 10 tabletop games. This will give you a little bit of a view into what I like, which will kind of help you know a little bit more about what's going to come up in the future, but also maybe a frame of reference for you to give me suggestions on other games that I might like to check out. Now, I should start by mentioning that when it comes to game appeal, for me, the first aspect is always going to be theme. I'm a diehard nerd. I love sci-fi and fantasy and post-apocalyptic and superheroes. And if I go into a game store and start checking things out on the shelves, I'm probably not going to be all that drawn to a game about bird watching or putting cute mandalas into a beautiful tableau. Not to say that there's anything wrong with those kind of games, they just don't have an automatic appeal to me. But if one of my game friends came over and said, "Hey Dave, trust me, you got to try this out. This is a game about putting animals in a zoo," you know what, I give it a shot. But the first appeal for me is always going to be, you know, orcs fighting barbarians or aliens versus demons, or, you know, those kind of themes. So you're going to notice that in this top 10 list. So without further ado, let's get to my top 10 list. So every video I see always has to include honorable mentions. I'm going to go ahead and start with one. I think this might be a really good appeal for people who are maybe more into D&D and wanting to get into board games. So my honorable mention is going to be Gloomhaven: Jaws of the Lion by Cephalofair Games, released in 2020. This is a cooperative adventure game set in a fantasy theme, which is why I kind of feel like people who are more into RPGs might actually get into this. It'll have a familiar setting to it. I really love the board that comes with this. It's a lay flat booklet that you turn the pages for your different campaigns. It's very convenient, easy to transport, and I like the look of it. In Gloomhaven: Jaws of the Lion, you and your adventuring party will be traveling through cities and sewers, battling monsters, demons, and sentient slime. The characters each have their own unique powers and abilities, but rather than using dice, you're going to use them with a really interesting card system that is both wonderful and frustrating as hell. Your turn consists of two actions, a top action from one card and a bottom action from a different card. Naturally, the two abilities that you want to use are going to be on the same card, and you can't do that. As if that's not frustrating enough, every now and then you got to get rid of cards, and then you're going to battle with yourself on, well, this card is the one that has the weapon I really want that's going to kick ass, but this card I need to be able to move, so I have to get rid of this one. It's wonderful, but it sucks. But that's the challenge, and you know, what's a game without any challenge? That's what makes it great, right? One of the great things about this game is its accessibility. You can usually pick this up at Target or even Walmart for $40 or less. And a lot comes in this game. There's actually quite a bit to it, stuff in this one little box, so definitely a good value. And if you're new to board games and you want to check out something with a little bit of that fantasy theme, absolutely check out Gloomhaven: Jaws of the Lion. Okay, let's get into the actual top 10. Number 10 for me is Terraforming Mars: Ares Expedition by Stronghold Games, released in 2021. Now I have the original version of Terraforming Mars as well, Ares Expedition seems to make it to the table a lot more. They're pretty similar. There's only a couple little differences between the game, one of which is, of course, the size. Ares Expedition is a lot smaller, and just as with Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, there's the ease of accessibility. You can usually find this at Target for fairly cheap. To me, Terraforming Mars is sort of a chill and relax kind of a game. There is a competitive aspect to it, but it's not a war between opponents, it's more of a race. And there are several other versions of Terraforming Mars out there in different standalone games, and there's also expansions you can get. There's quite a bit to it. So this is all I have for now, is Ares Expedition and the original version. In Terraforming Mars, you play the part of a corporation that's trying to make Mars inhabitable by raising the temperature and also raising the oxygen levels and bringing the oceans up. You do this by setting up factories and facilities for scientific research and doing your best to advance technology so that you can produce plants and heat, and of course, like any good corporation, money. Ultimately, what you want to do to win this game is get your TR up, or your Terraform rating. Like I said, for me, this is just kind of an unwind game, a relaxing, pretty cool, and I never get really tired of playing it. So if you're new to gaming, definitely check out Terraforming Mars. And I'd be interested in hearing from any of you who've played some of the other versions. I know that there's a DICE version of Terraforming Mars, and what the differences between all the versions are, what your favorite version is, and why. At number 9, Dead Men Tell No Tales by Renegade Games, released in 2015. This is a really fun game, easy to learn, quick to set up. This is the game where, when I'm looking between two of my really heavy games that I want to play, and I spend an hour debating between which one I should take the time to set up and finally realize it's getting late, let's just play Dead Men Tell No Tales. This is a cooperative game, a pirate game, a game in which you board a burning ghost ship in search of treasure. The object is to get a certain amount of treasure out and into your dinghy before the whole thing explodes. But as I said, the whole ship is burning. Now, each character has their own unique abilities along with standard actions that you can do each round to a limited amount. You'll use those actions to move about the ship, fight ghosts and monsters and crewmen, but ultimately what you really need to do is use your abilities to quelch the fires. Each room gets a red or yellow die with the starting amount of pips showing. These dice represent the temperature of the room. Each round, after laying out a new tile, a card is drawn to show which dice will increase its number. If a die turns a 6, that room explodes, becoming untraversable. Now, on top of that, when a room does explode, the heat goes out through adjoining doors to other rooms, and this causes the dice in those rooms to go up, which may end up with a serious chain reaction if you're not maintaining your fire levels. So that becomes the real challenge. At first, it seems like it's going really smooth and you're doing well, and then all of a sudden, all hell's breaking loose all around you and the ship starts exploding and you find yourself trapped or possibly dead. I know there is an expansion for this game. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but I would like to. This game is a lot of fun and it makes it to the table fairly recently. Number 8 on my list is Escape from Stalingrad Z by Raybox Games, released in 2022. I really dig this game. I had my eye on it for a while and was fortunate enough to have it given to me by a friend, so thanks, Dave. This game has a classic theme of World War II zombies. Who doesn't love that? Your character is either a German or a Russian soldier who is trapped in a base that is overrun by zombies, and you're gonna have to shoot your way out. You'll go across the board looking for ammo, food, and first aid, and come across zombies of different strengths and levels. Now, the standard version of this game comes with little standees and tokens for the characters and for the zombies, but there is a deluxe version which comes with miniatures. Now, I was given the version that has the standees, and I saw online that they do have miniatures available for purchase separately, but they're a bit pricey and I have a 3D printer. So, I made my own zombies. and characters. And there is one area of this game that I often get a little bit distracted and forget about, and that is when it comes to movement. In most board games, when you have a standard amount of movement, you just move across the board. But in this one, for your characters, not the zombies, the direction you're facing actually makes a difference. And it costs you a movement point to move 90 degrees. So if there's someone you need to attack behind you and you're trying to use your walking speed of 4 movement points, it's going to cost you 2 of those movement points just to turn around and face them. I usually remember this somewhere around page 4 or 5, and by then it really doesn't matter at that point. I figure I might as well just keep going the way I'm going. But otherwise, yeah, this is a very cool game. If you're into the theme, or just fighting your way through a scenario, check out Escape from Stalingrad Z. I do understand there's supposed to be some sort of a sequel maybe coming out, or a different camp that you're escaping from, but the same theme, World War II zombies, I do believe. I haven't heard a whole lot on it, but I did hear a little bit, so I guess as we hear more about that, I'll let you know. Number 7, Demon Ship by Black Site Studios, 2023. This is considered a micro game by Malev da Shinobi. And while I went in with the deluxe set of this, you really don't have to go crazy with this. You could just get the instructions and play the game just fine with a handful of dice. It's a micro game because it's played on a 6x6 board. And I really love the board and the furnishings that came with the full version. This board comes in laser cut pieces of wood that you have to assemble yourself. And to be honest, it's a bit of a pain in the ass. Not easy to assemble and glue well, especially if you accidentally glue one of your magnets in backwards. In Demon Ship, you're on a spaceship that has been attacked and boarded by aliens. Your job is to go room to room fighting aliens and restoring systems to the ship. Now everything here is decided by D6s. Take a single D6 just to figure out everything from what room in the ship you're in, which layout of that room you're using, which doorway you're going to start and end, how many aliens are in that room, what other objectives are in the room for you to take care of. Once you get through that, then you just basically roll a handful of D6s that show you what your options are for that turn as far as your actions, and what your opponent's actions are going to be as well. I love this game. It's very convenient for transportation, and it's just a lot of fun. Black Site Studios has some interesting stuff on their website. If you haven't checked them out, go take a look. There's another one I have my eye on that's another micro game like this called Pit Lord, and it's really cool looking, but there's a lot of other games on there as well that are kind of miniature based. Some are even horror themed. Really just some cool stuff on there to check out. So go take a look at Black Site Studios if you get a chance. Number 6, Set a Watch. Rock Manor Games, released in 2019. I first heard about this game at Gen Con 2 years ago, and for some reason it didn't really jump out at me at the time. Maybe it's just because I was overwhelmed with everything that was going on, but I recently picked it up, and now it goes in my backpack and goes to work with me every day. I really love this game. This is another game that's really good for people who are maybe experienced with D&D, but not so much in board games. You want to find a way to kind of maneuver in. I think you'll find a lot of appeal to this one. There's also several other standalone Set a Watch games and expansions, and I now want them all. In Set a Watch, you and your adventuring party will travel across lands, setting up camps and being attacked by monsters who only come out at night and only attack single file. Each round, one of your characters of 4 that are in play must stay back at camp, helping to perform other actions, getting some rest, and stoking the fire. And the reason this is important is because as the monsters are coming out of the darkness, the more your fire is stoked, the further back in line you can see what monsters are coming. And because of their varying hit points, you kind of want to know ahead of time what's coming up in the future. The characters who are not at the campfire and who are actually defending will be using special ability cards as well as dice rolls that they can use and combine to battle the monsters that are coming their way. And it becomes a dice management game as you slay the beasts and send them to the graveyard, and then of course they'll end up coming back out of the graveyard and attacking you until you get to the final round. I'll go into this more in detail later. I think I'll probably make a review video of this, maybe after I pick up a couple more of them. But Settlewatch has definitely been a lot of fun for me. I've been playing it a lot lately, and I look forward to other versions of this. Number 5 is Cyclades by Metagot Games, released in 2009. The production of this game has changed hands several times over the years, and it's been released by a bunch of companies. I do understand that there is a legendary version right now being put out by Open Sesame Games. It's being crowdfunded, so keep your eyes open for that. I'm really interested in it. This is a heavier game, which I like. Cyclades is a game based in Greek mythology in which you build up your civilization creating metropolises. Metropolis. Cities. You use your ships to explore new islands, fight battles with your armies, and even call upon the legendary monsters of Greek mythology, like the Kraken. This is a great game for area control and some combat, but it also has a really cool system for bidding for the gods' approval. Players can spend their gold to try to appease the gods, but if another player outbids you, you'll be forced to try a different god, and each god offers different abilities. I really like this game. It's a lot of fun, it has a lot to offer, and I'm really interested in seeing how that legendary version comes out. There are also some expansions for this game, so if you get a chance, check it out. And now for something completely different. Number 4, 5 Parsecs from Home by Modiphius, released in 2021. 5 Parsecs from Home is a solo wargaming adventure in which is considered to be miniatures agnostic, which basically means you can pick up any miniatures around the house and use them to play. It's basically a rule book full of tables for which you roll D6s, D10s, or D100s to figure everything out. This is a sci-fi game in which you build a small team of 4 to 6 characters who go on adventures like an episode of Firefly. The tables in the rulebook allow you to roll for who is hiring you, how much they're paying you, what the conditions of the area are like, and what sort of enemy you'll be facing. Movement and battles in this are very similar to Warhammer. It lets you add a little bit more story elements, at least that's how I see it. Now as for miniatures, I tend to use whatever I have on hand. I've got plenty of D&D miniatures, I use some Warhammer miniatures, and sometimes I'll toss with Stormtroopers. I mean, it is a sci-fi game, and who's to say if the table says that you're fighting some ex-military guys, why not a group of random Stormtroopers? But as for my team, I designed them myself using Eldritch Foundry and printed them at home. I also enjoy building some terrain, but honestly, if you have a good imagination, you could just use items from around the house like cans or books to represent the terrain. I love this game. I've playing it a lot lately, going through a 20 game campaign in which I think I'm about 15 games in so far. A lot of it is, keeping track of things on a notebook, but there's a lot of interesting aspects outside of just going and killing people. Like, you got to make sure you keep track of paying your crew and paying off your ship until it's debt-free. A lot of things that you can incorporate this to make this even more personal, and now there are other books that help expand the rules and give you sort of expansions on that. So it's definitely different if you are a board game fanatic and not used to this sort of thing. But then again, if you're collecting all these different board games, you got all kind of miniatures you can just kind of pull out for hour or two and create your own little adventure. Just like Warhammer, it uses a handful of dice and measuring ability, although if you're playing on gridded maps, and you can literally use any kind of maps you got laying around. You can use your D&D maps, you can use Shadowrun maps, you can use Battletech maps, anything that's got 1-inch grids, you can just use those and build building terrain's pretty easy for it too, so a lot you can do with this, but you can also keep it very minimal. A lot of fun. Number 3, Eschaton by Archon Studios, and released in 2016. 2016, really? Well, I only heard about it 2 years ago at Gen Con, and I bought it there along with the Sigils of Ruin expansion, and this is definitely just an amazing game to me, I think. I love the aesthetics of this game, the art. It's just very, I want to say, Guerrilla Gothic. It's got that kind of chunky border, jaggedy lines in some of the artwork, like the edicts and the auras. But on the other hand, it's got a bit of a watercolor aspect to some of the actual character cards and stuff. It's really beautiful. I enjoy the artwork a lot to this game. In Eschaton, you control a cult moving across the land for area control, killing off other cult armies and performing dastardly deeds to appease the Dark Lord before Armageddon kills everyone. I mean, who wouldn't love that theme? You recruit new cult members with different abilities, overpower your enemies, cast curses and plagues, and cast your cult members onto the sacrificial pyre to obtain the Dark Blessing. I think I'm going to make this game my first official review on this channel because, quite frankly, I just don't feel like it gets enough attention. I watch other people's videos all the time about their top 50 favorite board games, or top 20, or top 10, but very rarely do I hear this one mentioned, and to me, this really has a lot of interesting aspects to it. So I definitely will go deeper into this game once I do the review, which actually might be the next video. Maybe I think that'd be a good place to go from here. I really dig the quality of arts that Archon Studios is putting into their games, and I'm really interested in checking out their other game, Nexus Infernum. I'll have to get that one soon, but if you haven't checked out Archon Studios, definitely look into their stuff. It's super cool. Number 2, Scythe by Stonemaier Games, released in 2016. Oh, Scythe is my all-time favorite board game. Even though it's number 2, it's my favorite board game. There's never a bad time to play Scythe, provided that you have the time. This is a heavy, chunky game, and once you lay it all out, it can be a bit intimidating for somebody who's new to this sort of thing. But once you've played through it, it's fairly easy to figure out. Scythe takes place in an alternate history in the 1920s in a war-torn Eastern Europe, where tribes are battling each other and running diesel-powered mechs. Ooh, that's cool. This game has a little bit of everything from engine building to area control, combat, but to simplify, the goals that you really need to meet in order to win are across the top of the board. It's a bit of a balancing act. You need the loyalty of your people and your military strength to go up, but in order for that to happen, you need to build buildings and mechs. But for that to happen, you need workers in the field. You have to choose different action each round, so you need to think ahead for what you want to accomplish. I suspect this game is going to remain a favorite for me for a very long time. Definitely enjoyable. If you haven't checked it out, I urge you check out Scythe. Alright, so we've made it to my favorite all-time tabletop game. And I've already mentioned it a couple of times, so if you haven't figured that out, my favorite game of all time is Dungeons & Dragons. We don't need a slide across the table, don't even need a bunch of video footage for this one. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know something about Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons was released by a company called TSR in 1974. That's right, it's 50 years old. Now in 1997, it got bought up by a company called Wizards of the Coast, and they're the ones who are responsible for these, and some brand new books coming out very soon. Now the reason why I'm not showing you a bunch of footage of all the stuff you could put into this is because, for one, I have way too much stuff. I have all kinds of terrain that I've built, all kinds of monsters that I've printed and painted, tons and tons of books, and a ridiculous amount of dice. But really, the only things you actually need are the book and, say, a notebook and some dice and a DM. The DM, or the Dungeon Master, is the one who sort of runs the game. We have a regular game here at our house, and I am the DM for that one. The DM helps to offer the setting of the story, and also plays the parts of the villains, the NPCs, but also is the senses for the players. In the game, as a player, you are playing the role of a fantasy character that you help create. You establish everything from, where they come from and what their name is and what they look like and what kind of class they fit in, to establish what kind of abilities they have. As the DM being their senses, what I mean by that is the DM tells them what they see, what they hear, what they smell, all the senses. Still, it's up to the player to decide what they want to do with their character, whatever they want to do, whether they want to attack the dragon or attempt to seduce the dragon. The success of any action relies on the rolling of dice, mostly 20-sided die actually, in order to increase the spectrum of possibility on whatever action you're trying to perform. This game has more freedom than any other game I could possibly imagine, and so much creativity involved in it. In fact, the game that I run here is completely homebrewed, and I have established my own world, the land of Valencia. I've also spent a ridiculous amount of time custom creating miniatures for my players, establishing everything from the different peoples of this land, hundreds of NPCs, even do my best Scottish accent for the dwarves. In recent years, D&D has really had a massive appeal. Even my hot wife, who has no interest in any of my board games, loves playing D&D with us. Now this game in particular is going to have a lot of offshoot topics that we're going to talk about in the future of this show. But seriously, if you're not a gaming person, if you're watching this just to be nice to me because I asked you to watch my new channel, and you've never tried playing Dungeons and Dragons before, give it a shot. It is not like other games, and it's so liberating, I guess, to actually act out those parts that you've never really exposed to anybody else before. A lot of fun, and there's absolutely anything that you can do in it, and it just keeps growing. You can see just from television, and thanks to Big Bang Theory and Stranger Things and Critical Role, how much the audiences are just growing and growing as people hear more about it. So if you haven't taken a chance, get over the whole nerd thing and just give it a shot. You might just find it's a lot of fun. Okay, so there it is. That is my top 10 tabletop games of all time, my favorite. I definitely want to hear from you. Which of these games on my list have you played and actually enjoyed? If I spoke about a certain game, would you recommend something that's similar to that for me? I'd really like to hear your opinion. I do have a lot more games than what I covered in there, but yeah, I'm always looking at new suggestions and hearing what you have to offer on that. I really appreciate you taking this time with me. I would like to say that I am looking for other recommendations on games that I will review in the future, and that includes new and unknown games. If you are somebody who's been developing your own game, maybe you've got a prototype and you want me to try it out and possibly talk about it on the show, let me know. Just send me an email at the link below. And of course, as always, I gotta say, please hit that subscribe button and really just spread this around. If you're a gamer, send it to somebody who you think might enjoy it, and get the word out. I really appreciate it. I really look forward to hearing from you. So until next time, get out there and roll some dice. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dave Wallace. Thanks for watching. God damn it. It's the name of this fucking show. Yeah. Hey gamers, thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate all the support. It's one of the things I know that I can count on with the gaming community at large. This is, of course, to the point where I got to ask you to like it, hit that subscribe button, and maybe share this with a friend. If you are a game designer, or maybe starting your own gaming company, and you want to do a little bit of cross promotion, maybe you got a prototype that you want me to check out and talk about on the show, definitely let me know. And of course, for all questions, suggestions, and corrections, there's all kinds of ways to get a hold of me. Probably the easiest one is just comment below. You can also send me an email at jackofallgamestt@gmail.com. The T stands for tabletop. And if you'd like to take a look at my commissioned miniature paint jobs, or even some of the other stuff in my life like photography or tattooing, which is what I do for my day job, go check it out on Instagram at Art of Wallace. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.